Hey, I'm Todd. Thanks for watching my video and do all that good YouTube stuff. Share it, like it, hit the notification bell, thumbs up, subscribe, all the things that you do. Thanks for taking the time to watch my video and saving some money perhaps. I also invite you to check out the links in the description for some long-term savings with the stock market and checking out the links for either E-Trade or M1 where you can save and trade fractional stocks, or Webull, which is usually giving away a couple free stocks for just depositing $100. So I strongly invite you to invest in your future and check them out. Thanks, and let's get to the video. I'm going to call this the output seal on the transfer case. Output seal on the transfer case going to the rear. Differential leaking. You can replace it. You can pop it out with a screwdriver, and anyway. Right here, 13 millimeter nuts holding the exhaust on. 13 millimeter bolts. I just took the bolts off on each side for that. And then there's one bushing. I took it out of here, and a ground strap. Drop the exhaust. Then there's a couple shields. I think 10 and 11, kind of a mix there for the little nuts, holding the shields in place. It's a 8 millimeter. And a E10. And I have an E12 as well. So those are the three kind of special sockets I was using to take this apart. So, and there's the drive line. They want you to have two people to take it out. You don't want to overstress the joint here in the middle because you could possibly damage it, they say. Not sure what the odds are, but so, and this wants to turn, so I use this as a wedge. It'll be up against the gas tank, wherever it needed to be, so I could break the other bolts loose. And I did end up using an impact gun, which worked to take the last one off. You can see they all have some Loctite on them, green Loctite in the front and the back. Mark the position with some whiteout or something. You can put it back in the same spot. Just a 15 millimeter deep socket on those, two studs. Took all the bolts out. And there was a separation point over here where you can get a screwdriver in here. And then up here, it's a spot too. Pried it off carefully off the dowel pins. And then we'll be cleaning this all up. And maybe I'll show more of this too. So, oil slinger, I guess, what they call it. And I got that gizmo thing there. So this comes off first, just slides off. This slides off first, and then this comes out after that. And there's also a magnet right there I took out. That's the back side all cleaned up, and I'll show you more in a minute. Comes with grease. We add a little more. Yeah, install it here. We got a press and everything here, so we got a lot of extra pieces from bearings and things. This fits really nice on here. Otherwise, if you use something flat, probably too. It's nice. Get it down. So there's a clip on here, and this clip actually needs to be compressed in order for this to come out. Not pulled out, it needs to be compressed. And we used 3 like paper clips, one here, and one here, like a tripod thing to compress it. Little paper clips so we could wedge it in there, and a little screwdriver too. Something similar to this. And that would be right along this edge in here. So that was a little tricky at first for me. The instructions weren't quite clear, but got it figured out. So we're going to be pressing this back into this hole. So we will be going and supporting the bearing on our press. Right, probably on here. And then we're pressing this into place. And the bearing has a taper here, so the taper with the bearing should compress that clip. That's the idea, I believe, and we're going to find out. So that's the plan. And we'll let you know if it's successful. We're just going to the press and pressing it on. So the clip's in there, we get everything pressed. So if you can see that. Stop focusing on my hand. So you just do that for the snap ring all the way around, so it's compressed. And like I said, we used a small screwdriver and a couple of small paper clips, which is what Jeep actually recommends, using small paper clip and working it inside there. So when we pressed that in, we did hear a little click indicating that we had pressed far enough in, and the snap ring is in its proper place. No more extra parts. Looks like we are good to go. Put a little grease, or I'm going to throw a little lubricant, little transfer case fluid in there. Drop some down there for that bearing down below. And we'll see about reassembling it. Got it all cleaned up on this side. You got to clean up the transmission side. All right, so I didn't have really any problem putting it on. Might have to do a little jiggling because there's a little free play in that whole assembly over there, where the shaft and the bearings and all that good stuff has a little free play. But I wiggled it on, didn't really have a problem, and dowel pins lined up, bolted up. 33 foot-pounds about, I believe, for these bolts here. And we'll just continue to put together. Oh, 2 bolts for that, I forgot about that. Bracket, 13 millimeter as well. And we'll add some fluid to this and put it back together. So we use this, a dead blow hammer, plastic, metal, or regular hammer encased in plastic. And we would bang on this, both sides, to try and loosen this up, because the front and the back are kind of stuck. We're stuck because of rust. Used a wire brush and clean them off as much as we can. Again, try and keep this as straight as possible over and extending that joint can apparently cause damage. So we clean these up. Cleaned up in there as best we could. Got our white line, so we'll have two people lifting this up into place. We'll get some bolts started. Also, I took that off and cleaned it, and I marked it where it needs to go back on to as well, on the bottom. So it's going to be like that. So we'll bolt this into place. Those are one of the E bolts that I used. There we go. Sorry. 4 of those. So we'll mount that baby. Probably. And then we'll install our rear drive line. Propeller shaft in the back, and my marks here, fancy marks. And this will be tapping on each side to get this separated from this. And I was lucky enough to get a gap like that and got a screwdriver and worked it out the rest of the way. Now this big piece of weight gets in the way. Gotta take that off. That's one of 4 E bolts that holds that in place. So there's that. So I got this out of the way, and it slid it down the drive line so I could actually pound on this to get it out, because neither one wanted to separate. So we got our bolts going. This is not, I would say it's not a CV axle or CV joint type, so we're going to 61 foot-pounds. And there's a Loctite on the front of the threads, then there's some sealer in the middle of the threads. So when you take them out, you'll see some green, and then some reddish type on the end, the thread locker. So we'll get some thread locker on both ends, blue thread locker on there as well. And again, keep this as straight as possible. And we're going back together. All right, I got them tightened down. So I use the emergency brake because I don't want to feel like grabbing onto this somewhere, the channel locks or something, and cause any damage. So set the emergency brake, and this worked. So I could torque them down. Also, one other thing you could probably do, if you have some wood or something, you could probably stick something through each wheel. And all 4 wheels have something going in between there. Once they turn, they're gonna, of course, hit something and lock up. And then once all 4 wheels are locked up, I think, or maybe just the back. Just do the back too. Little test. Jam them up in the back with some wood, and if they don't turn, then you should be able to tighten up your bolts back here. And we'll throw the exhaust. We'll put the shields back up here, and we'll put the exhaust back on.